This is going to be Introduction to SQL, Chapter 7.1 through 7.3. We're going to have another video for the remaining sections of Chapter 7, but this is just going to be the first part for Week 1. Let's get started. First things first, let's discuss what is SQL. So SQL, or Structured Querying Language, or SQL, depending on how you describe it, is simply the language that we use to talk to the database. We can create our tables, we can do data management, adding, modifying, deleting, we can perform queries, which is simply a ad hoc question or a question that we're going to ask the database, which allows the database to have us turn data into useful information. The thing about queries is that they're non-procedural. You simply write the command of what you want to be done and execute the query, and the query will be completed. You don't have to worry about how things get done on the back end. There are 4 different parts of the SQL language that we're going to discuss, and you don't really need to keep these memorized, but you do need to understand that they all exist. The first is the DML, or the data manipulation language, which is the parts of SQL that will allow us to insert, update, delete, or retrieve select information from our data. This is manipulation of data, so we're changing our data as we go along, either adding things, deleting things, or simply retrieving the information we need. The second is our DDL, which is our data definition language. This is the part where we use to create our objects, our tables, our indices, and our views, and to control some of our access rights. The rest of that is under the DCL, but we'll talk about that in a sec. Next, we do our TCL, which is our transaction control language, which allows you to have multiple DMLs or multiple manipulation languages inside of a single transaction. The important thing is when we work with queries, we want to make sure everything happens within a single transaction, because it's possible that we're going to be changing multiple pieces of information at the same time, and we don't want to have 2 of those go through and the third one fail. We need to make sure that the entire transaction all completes successfully. That's where we use our transaction language. And the last one is the data control language, which is simply controlling who is allowed to do what users are allowed to have what controls over the data. So this is our DCL. These are the 4 different parts of our SQL or our SQL language. Let's keep going. One thing that you want to remember with your database is that data is stored by type. We haven't really gotten into types in Chapter 1 and 2 yet, so I want to make sure that you recognize when you're designing your data, you need to think about what data type makes sense for each attribute. Remember, data attributes are those data fields or properties that are associated with your entities. 5 of the data types that we're going to use are going to be our character, which is going to be a pretty common one, which is going to be our string data type. And we'll talk about different ways that is created, but understanding that you're returning a string of data. Our numeric data types, which will be either an integer or a float. Our date time data type. We also have a Boolean data type, which is a bit or a yes or no. And what I like to use a lot for identifiers is our GUID, which is our unique identifier that is created automatically by the system. We'll get into this more when we talk about other data types in the chapters between 3 and 6, but for right now, I just want you to understand that data types are a part of data in your database, and you need to make sure to store data types correctly. This is your basic select query. So there's a whole lot more to queries that we can do, but for the purposes of Week 1, I just want you to be able to deal with the basic parts of a query, which is just going to be select the specific data fields that you want from the data table that you're going to be using, or that entity. In this case, you can just use the words select and from with the list of data fields separated by a comma, or and then the table name that you're referencing. So I can say select P code, P description, P price, P quantity on hand, QOH, from product, and that will return all of those fields, my code, my description, my price, and my quantity on hand, that exist in the table product. It's really important that your table names are spelled correctly and your field names are spelled correctly, because if you spell them wrong, data table or the query isn't going to be able to return correctly. At this point, as of this week, we are not doing criteria. So I am literally getting everything that is in the database, all of the records that come back by doing this query. I'm not selecting any criteria at all. You can use a wildcard to denote all fields and it's just a star. So I can say select star from customers, and that will return all of the fields from my table customer all into one record set. For right now, you're not worried about how you're going to take that record set and turn it into something useful when we, if we talk about doing applications and being able to get data from a database and doing something in an application in a web app or something like that. That'll be part of our conversations in our team meetings. But for the purposes of this class, we're not worried about what to do once we get the data. We're just worried about getting the data. When we're using SQL Server, a lot of cases, case or the capitalization doesn't matter. You can write select all uppercase or all lowercase. You can refer to your field names, all uppercase and all lowercase. As long as they are spelled correctly, SQL Server doesn't matter. That is not true of every DBMS, every database system. Some of them matter. So you need to be very careful if you're using a different DBMS than the one that we're using in the future to know that capitalization may matter, and make sure that you check documentation to make sure that that's true. Also in SQL Server, new lines don't really matter and spaces don't really matter. So you can see here that I have said select employee name, last name and first name, enter from store employee, because I sometimes like to keep my queries very clear. Where is the select statement? Where is the from statement? When your queries get a little more complicated, this is important. For right now, you're probably looking at it going, it's not that complicated, why am I worried? But as we move on, it'll make more sense. Also realize that SQL Server Management Studio is going to color code your keywords like select and from. You want to keep track of those. So for right now, you can add new lines just to make your queries easier to read. Sometimes in your database, you have made a column name that is not very pretty. It's not what you want it to look like. In this case, we have in our customers table, we have a CUS underscore code, a CUS underscore last name, and a CUS underscore first name, which are all kind of ugly field names, and we may not want those in our resulting query. You can use ColumnAliases to make your field name pretty. So in this case, what you do for the syntax is in the section where you would put in the field name, you say field name as, and then you put in the pretty name that you want it to be. So in this example, I have done select P description or P descript as description and P price as price as for my product. And that allows me to have two fields in my resulting table. One is description and one is price, and they're nice and pretty. You can see the example I've done from the aviation company customer code, and I've made it from the cus code, last name and first name, to customer code, last name and first name, made them pretty and made them nice to read. So this is how you do aliases in SQL. Section 7.3b through section 7.3e will just describe a couple more things that you can do with SQL. So we've talked about aliases, being able to call something different. Another thing you can do is computation with arithmetic computations. You can do most arithmetic computations this way. So if you have two number fields and you want to multiply them together or divide them, you can do that by just using the field name of, say, quantity on hand times price, and then if you don't give it a name, it'll just call it expression 1. If you do give it a name, you can save it as that name because we know how to do aliases. So you can do QOH times price as total value, and your resulting record set will have the calculation of those two fields together at the same time, which is really convenient. The next thing we can do is arithmetic on our dates. We can add or subtract the number of days, months, or years, doing some date arithmetic. And they give you some examples here, and then there's some that I'm going to have you do for the homework, but I'll explain that when we get to the homework. The last thing on 7.3e is listing unique values. Sometimes when we have data, you have duplicate values, and you just want to get all of the unique values. Say you had a list of all of the invoices with all of your customer names, and I only wanted the list of customers who have an invoice, but I don't want to have to deal with anything else. So I can do listing a unique value by using the distinct keyword after my select statement. So I say select distinct, and then continue it out. So my field name that I want to do from my table, and that will allow me to select only my unique values. Okay? All right, that's section 7.1 through 7.3. I'm only doing a little bit at a time for these first couple of weeks to get you through chapter 7. So what we need to do now is actually log into your SQL Server. What I've done up here is I've given you the server name and how to log in. I've already added all of you as users to the database that I am using so that you guys can log in. You should be able to just use your Active Directory login, which is just your net ID at Great Falls College MSU, GFC MSU. And you can use the Active Directory Universal using MFA support. And what that's going to do is pop open a pop-up that's going to allow you to log in using Microsoft's login authentication. Be able to put in your password at that point, and then you should be able to connect directly. If you would like, you can choose to just connect straight from the first screen. However, if you would like it to be more specific, to pick which database we're going to use, you can click the Options button, and you'll see connection properties at the top, so the second screen here, and then you can click the Browse Server. Once you've typed in your username and your password, it should allow you to go in and browse the server to select specific databases. It might say this might take a few minutes depending on how many databases. Right now there's really only one database in there along with the master, so it's not that hard to do that. And it should pop up and show you that from the GFC MSU Simpson database, there is a GFC MSU Simpson user database that you can select from. This is where you're going to be getting your Tiny College data for you to do your homework for your 7.1 through 7.3. So you can connect to your database, and when you do that, it should open up and allow you to start doing SQL queries. Now that you've gotten into your SQL Server, we're going to actually go do your homework. So there are 5 homework assignments that I want you to do. You're going to open up your Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio. You're going to connect to my database, and then you are going to use the Tiny College schema to create new queries for each of the required things here. We will talk about what the ERD for Tiny College is, but it's in your book. At this point, you should recognize it because it was part of your homework. So the Tiny College has a class, a course, a student, and an enrollment. We're not really concerned about how those are all related yet because we aren't going to get into different join things, but we are going to talk about the different things that we can do with this. So first thing we're going to do is get all of our fields from the table class. So we should be able to select all the fields from the class table. Then we're going to get the student first and last names, student number, and GPA from, again, the class table or the student table. We're going to get the student numbers and the calculated grade points. You may not know how to calculate grade points, but it's essentially your GPA times the number of college hours that you have done. So that's how you would calculate the grade points. So I should be able to get my student number and then the calculated grade points. Number 4 is the student number and the first and last name calculated together. In this case, you're going to be concatenating together 2 string fields to be able to get a singular field. And finally, you are going to get the student number and the age. This is the kind of hard one. So your age is listed as a string. If you want to convert it to a specific data type, you can use the cast method, and I've given you a link here to the description of how to cast. You essentially use the word cast and you say the field name as, and then what data type you want to turn it into. Once you turn the age into a date, you are going to get today's date, which you can use the get date method. Again, I've given you the link to get today's date, and then you're going to use a method called date difference, which calculates the difference between 2 dates. Kind of makes sense. And you can use an interval in the middle to tell you what you are calculating to subtract or add, however you want to deal with that. Please go reference the W3 Schools site on how to use these SQL queries. Please actually call them in SQL Server. What you're going to do is you are going to copy both your SQL statement and your resulting record set. You can use the snipping tool from Microsoft. If you have Windows, I'm sure there's something like that in a Mac as well. to be able to copy and paste just a specific set of your screen. So you're going to select, here's my queries, and you're going to select, here's my record set, the resulting record set. Go ahead and paste those into your document that you're going to submit. Okay? And that's going to be your homework for Chapter 7.1 through 7.3. Have fun. Please call me on Teams if you need anything.